Good morning, Southgate. This will be something. In lieu of meeting together and trying to do something in a way that we can keep the family growing in faith, we're going to try this, a little devotional nugget multiple times throughout the week, something for you to talk about, think about, pray through, and hopefully that you reach out to someone, or if you meet in small groups, that it furthers your growth in faith and study. We'll be in Luke. We'll also dabble in some other places throughout the week. Goal is to give you a small little devotional video and do some growing with it, do some studying with it. But we're in Luke 20, and right now we are at the Give to Caesar What is Caesar's section of the book. And you know the story. I'm going to read through it. And this is Luke 20. I'm going to pick up in verse 20. Watching for the opportunity, the leader sent spies pretending to be honest men. They tried to get Jesus to say something that could be reported to the Roman governor so he would arrest Jesus. "Teacher," they said, "we know that you speak and teach what is right, and you are not influenced by what others think. You teach the way of God truthfully. Now tell us, is it right for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" Verse 23, Jesus saw through their trickery and he said, "Show me a Roman coin. Whose picture and title are stamped on it?" "Caesar's," they replied. "Well then," he said, "give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give to God what belongs to God." And then in verse 26, so they failed to trap him by what he said in front of people, and said they were amazed by his answer, and they became silent. A couple things to see here. Jesus has no money on him. He's got to ask someone for a simple coin. It's pretty cool to think that he didn't have to walk with his ATM card or a wad of cash on him wherever he went. He knew God provided. He knew the people of God were there for him. Two, if you look at the end, the people become silent. Now, I know you've been there, where whether you've been in a debate or an argument and you drop the best line and it just silences the crowd. This just kind of wowed the people. The goal in this, I'm using the New Living Translation version for the word trickery. They are trying to trap Jesus. They're trying to trick him into saying something that not only will upset the people who are under Roman rule, who are under Roman occupation, and who just holding the coin with Caesar's face on it infuriated them because it reminded them that they belonged to another man, that they were not free people. That their goal in all of this is to trick Jesus, and he turns around, leaving them stumped, leaving them with something to talk about, to think about. And so he says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Now, there's a couple things we can pull from this. The typical one is pay your taxes. It's that simple. Respect authority. Further study on authority, on taxes. This is still debated today. How much tax? Should we pay tax? Should the government have this much control? It's why people go to the polls. For further study, dig into Romans 13. There's some great stuff there. We respect authority until it undermines God's authority. And then we, as God's children, can say, no, I'm following God and not the law here. Mind you, just about all the laws, everything that's presented for us falls in line with what God's law is for us. So keep that in mind. But there is a chance to really look, does the government's laws affect your conscience, affect what you believe by God? And if it does, obey God. And I'm not saying be a religious zealot here, but what I'm saying is we follow God's authority over man's. Second thing is this is the grip verse. This is the verse to memorize. Give to God what belongs to God. Here's what's key. So we're talking about a man's image on a coin. And by the way, I'm going to pause for a second. Do you know why some coins have ridges on the sides? And some don't, some are smooth? Do you know? Okay. If you don't know, I'm going to answer it here in the end, but think about that. So he says, give me a coin. He says, whose image? But then after they talk about Caesar's image, he says, give to God what is God's. Remember, Genesis 1:27, we are created in the image of God. Give to God what belongs to God means Jesus is saying, I've got to give myself to God. That as we read before in Romans, I've got to deny myself, take up my cross daily, and follow him. That is me giving myself to God. I'm the coin. I am the coin. And if you look back, this follows just in line with what we just studied with the parable of the vineyard last week in Luke 20. Jump back a few verses, read it again, where we said we are the fruit. God comes into the vineyard and is seeking the fruit, and the fruit isn't something we make. We are the fruit. Our lives are the fruit for God. Okay? We are created in His image. We belong to Him. We are to give ourselves to Him. We are the fruit. We are the coin that bears God's image. We're to give our lives to Him. And so what we're hoping for is that you think on this, you dwell on this, you pray on this, but then you reach out to folks, whether you meet in small groups, and I know the virus is going around and you may not want to meet with a soul, meet with your phone and find someone else on the other end. Talk with some people. Discussion question, and how do we give ourselves to God? Not the stuff, not how do we give stuff, not how do we donate money. How do we give ourselves to God? The second question, I want to go back to those two coins. Some have ridges and some are smooth. That started as a way to avoid counterfeiting. Now, when you went back, coins generally had their value in their weight, made of silver. And so if we're going to talk about American coins, the quarter and the dime have ridges. The nickel and the penny, they do not. Okay? Now, the reason was, if you had a quarter with made silver, you could shave just slightly around the edges. You could remove some of that silver and still have what seemed to be a legitimate coin and still use it for full value. Save up some of those shavings, save up some of those silver shavings, compress them, and all of a sudden you have got more value. So my other question is, how do we avoid being a counterfeit? How do we avoid shaving some things off ourselves and not giving fully what is to God? And maybe there's a way, you talk amongst others, how do we put ridges in our life so we can see that we are authentic in how we give ourselves back to God? The ridges, to avoid counterfeit. What are the guardrails? What are things we can place in our way to say, I belong to God. I fully belong to God. Not 98% belong to God and I'm holding some back for myself. I fully belong to God. Second point, those other coins with the smooth sides, the reason there was no ridges is because people wouldn't shave the sides. They were of a lesser quality. They were of a lesser value. We have to understand that all of us are made in God's image, and some of us, by the very nature of failing to recognize God, failing to see God, failing for our choice, our will through God's predestination, Wednesday night class there, to come to God, some of us, sadly, and this hurts to say, are of lesser value, are not worth taking shavings off of. And that's a hard pill to swallow because we all want to say, you're the best, you're awesome. And yes, promote each other, care for each other, love each other. But we've got to understand there's a day come when God looks at all His children, just as we may look at all of our coins, and recognize that, some are really worth holding on to. And that comes because of the authentic life we have through Christ. That comes through the Spirit within us. I hope this is something for you guys to dwell on. I hope this is something for you to think about this morning, Sunday morning. And we'll keep sending out more videos. And if you know someone that can't watch the videos, if you know someone that can't have access to internet, this should be easy enough for you to explain and talk to them about. Use my terminology, take it, make it your own, and share, talk through the phone with some folks. Reach out to folks. Southgate, the thing we don't want you to be is lonely during this season. It's 3 weeks. It's a long time. We do not want you to be lonely. We want you to be engaged, but at the distance that is necessary. And understand, you may think this is all one big hoopla. This is ridiculous. God has given common grace to all people. And part of that common grace is He's bestowed some people great intelligence. Let's understand that those that are smart enough to tell us what to do, their intelligence comes from God, and let's listen. Let's be wise. Let's be prudent enough to wisdom. And at the same time, let's not panic. Let's not freak out. Let's not go overboard. Those of you hoarding all the toilet paper, I love you. But hopefully this devotional today is of some value for you, something to think about, reach out and talk about. We'll be checking in with you again soon. We love you guys. Get in touch with myself, the office, or the shepherds if you have any needs that we can help with. Love you guys. And remember, be covered in God's blessing through this tough time. And let us know if you're sick. And live in His glory. You know, you are His image. Live in His glory and share this story. Share what it feels like to be a part of God's life. Love you all. Hope to see you soon.